things have gone great. Haven't you heard? Kansas City is free. He told me to forgive. But where is the justice in that? Where is Henry? It ends the way it ends.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. This will be my Last of Us Episode 5 trailer video. There's a whole bunch of Easter eggs and references. We'll break it all down. If you're brand new to the channel, I'm doing videos for all the episodes. Be sure to subscribe to get them. We're also doing a giveaway for HBO Max subscriptions. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber and just post your favorite moment from the trailer on the video. I know everyone's excited to see that bloater get out at the worst possible moment, like just as things are going crazy. Like a ticking time bomb, a ticking time bloater. The big news, as per the trailer, Episode 5 is being released early on Friday because the Super Bowl is this weekend. I'll be posting my video right after the episode actually airs on Friday. I'll be doing videos for all the big Super Bowl trailers too. This week is supposed to be like Trailer Fest. There'll be a bunch of big Marvel trailers, a bunch of big DC movie trailers, Ant-Man the Wasp Quantumania, new Guardians of the Galaxy 3 trailer, maybe a trailer for the Marvels, a Flash trailer, maybe a few surprises. I believe Episode 5 is meant to be the conclusion of the Hunters arc here in Kansas City, along with Henry and Sam from the games. We only got a teaser for them at the end of Episode 4. They saved the introductions and their team-up for Episode 5. They also confirm all of our theories about what was shifting beneath the collapsed floor in the underground room that Kathleen didn't want to worry about. Let's not tell everyone else, because HBO wanted it to be a huge surprise when it escapes during Episode 5. They did make a couple changes from the games for this part with the bloater. I'll explain in a second. But the actual episode title is Endure and Survive, which is actually a quote taken from the video game that Ellie has. The actual quote in the context of the Last of Us game is from Ellie's comic book that she reads during the car ride, that same car ride in Episode 4, on the way to Pittsburgh in the game. On the show, it's Kansas City here, when they're facing the Hunters.
Okay, I know it doesn't look like it, but this here is not a bad read. Only one problem. Right there. To be continued. I hate cliffhangers.
Where did you get that?
Back at Bill's.
The comic book is called Savage Starlight, and she talks about the plot of the comic book with Joel and how dissatisfied she is with the ending because things end badly. The comic is meant to be a big metaphor for Joel and Ellie's journey just in general. The full quote is "To the edge of the universe and back, endure and survive," and the characters in the comic speak it after a big battle. Ellie remembers the quote after one of their big battles with the Hunters.
On the edge of the universe and back. Endure and survive.
Excuse me?
Savage Starlight. That comic I've been reading, that's what the hero says after a big battle.
So the way their battles in the Pittsburgh part of the game with the Hunters play out is just a little bit different. Like, they've added a bunch of stuff for the TV show version, but you kind of see the way they're using this. Because so much of the show uses lines from the games, moments from the games during the episode, Ellie will probably speak the line at some point after one of their battles with the Hunters. The meaning of the quote is basically that life can be hard sometimes, it can feel overwhelming. This is when you have to grit your teeth and just power through it, you can't give up. So it's Ellie's way of telling herself to toughen up and telling Joel, just like giving him a pep talk basically, that they'll get through this craziness with the Hunters, and it's meant to be a mirror for what Joel told her in Episode 4 after their first encounter with the Hunters when he said, "We'll get through this." The difference this time is that it's Ellie being the one to give Joel the pep talk as opposed to Joel trying to make her feel better, which normally you would expect. You would expect the adult to give the pep talk to the child, but it's another way The Last of Us is showing you how Ellie is toughening up and learning how to handle things as they continue to get worse and worse for them in the apocalypse, learning to survive, learning to abide it all. That's part of living in the apocalypse in The Last of Us. The whole idea that you need to just learn to deal with this. But just starting at the beginning of the trailer footage, you have the Kathleen voiceover talking about the current state of things in Kansas City and how things have gone well since the Hunters overthrew Fedra, took control of the city, but it's meant to be ironic, like she's sarcastically talking about how amazing things are now. It seems like she's talking to a bunch of Hunters inside this caged area. Normally, I would think that they were people the Hunters were holding in prison because it looks kind of like a makeshift prison, but the cage could just be a defensive measure against the infected or an old holding cell that Fedra used and the Hunters are just now using for their meeting. This scene during the day with a bunch of Hunters rolling out in their cars seems like it's happening in present day, just continuing their search for Henry, Sam, and now Joel and Ellie, because Kathleen, I think, believes that they're mercenaries Henry called to protect them, even though it seemed like she was kind of lying to herself, like, there's no way a little kid called a bunch of mercenaries in to come protect him. But the whole idea is that she's bent on revenge against Henry for the death of her brother and using the hunters to get it. Like that's all she cares about. Much to the detriment of everything else that they potentially have to deal with, the hunters have to deal with, it seems like, as they were looking at the bloater in the basement just shifting beneath that collapsed floor. Somehow, this is less important than me hunting down a common teenager and a little boy, his little brother, who clearly don't care about us and are just trying to stay safe. We should focus on them and not on all these infected that are probably going to burst out and hurt everybody. There's scenes of hunters rioting in the streets with fire all over the place. This is probably from flashbacks to when the hunters overthrew the Fedra Authority. It seems like the idea here is total chaos, and Kathleen's sarcastic voiceover mockingly saying how things are great because they're free. But things definitely do not look great. We see more scenes of them overthrowing Fedra, with the hunters that same night beating the crap out of the Fedra soldiers, like holding them captive and just enjoying torturing them. The hunters in general are meant to be like a more hardcore, darker version of the Fireflies, like an opposing authority to Fedra. One of the other major factions on the show. Like typically you just think of the Fireflies versus Fedra, but the hunters are meant to be like that third faction. And then beneath them, there are many roving bands of rogues just trying to live on their own outside of the quarantine zones. The ones that Joel warned Ellie about in the woods, like, oh, there are people out here that might find us, they have way worse for us planned than just trying to steal our stuff. They'll probably try to eat us, they'll probably kill us. That'd actually be us getting off lightly. And they want to use a lot of these scenes to show you that people can be even worse than the infected sometimes. Like that was part of Joel's whole voiceover dialogue. People are just as bad, if not worse, than the infected, because we barely saw any infected during episode 4, but you saw a whole bunch of really terrible people. The way you can tell some of these scenes are in present day is there's just like way fewer trucks and way fewer people congregating, way fewer hunters standing together. This is a new scene of Henry and Sam using sign language while they're hiding from the hunters. This seems like the whole group that next morning leaving the office building where they ran into each other. They pass through the remains of one of the buildings that's been drawn over by a child with depictions of a fantasy castle, like some child after 2003 who was living here pretended this was a fantasy, like things aren't so bad, we're living in a castle, it's protecting us, everything's nice outside. Just to forget the trauma of how bad things really were. It's meant to be similar to Sam's drawings depicting him and his brother Henry as if they were superheroes fighting the Fedra Authority before the hunters overthrew them. This is probably just Joel outside looking at the hunters in the distance or their escape route, planning their escape. In the game, it was the Pittsburgh Bridge that they had to make it across. The hunters guard every entrance and exit from the city. Obviously, it's Kansas City this time, so it's a slightly different exit. But not only do they have to avoid the hunters while making it through the city, probably a couple more encounters, they also have to distract them and fight their way through them again on their way out of the actual city. Sounds like they're going to be using the bloater as part of that distraction. This is just another scene of Ellie and Sam being kids together, just having a fun moment quickly while they rest during their run from the hunters. This seems like Henry feigning as if he's surrendering to the hunters, maybe as part of their larger distraction to actually escape. Then the action really kicks off, and it seems like Joel tries to help set off this giant distraction. Like you see a giant explosion go off in this building, and then you see the bloater escape with a couple other infected, and him screaming bloody murder at Ellie to run like she's never run before. Ellie starts running and firing the gun on the hunters while she's running, just like Joel taught her, and they pay off the scene from the military tanks that they turned into plows Joel was talking about in episode 4. If you remember, Ellie asked about all the cars that looked like they'd been plowed through, and Joel explained that the military put giant plows on their tanks to clear paths through them. Now the hunters are doing that, but in a more sinister way, trying to plow through them. Kathleen's voiceover continues, saying they told her forgiveness, but thinking forgiveness for Henry giving up her brother to the Fedra Authority and his death at their hands demands justice, and for her, forgiveness does not equal justice. That just continues some of the themes of her conversation with the doctor that she wound up killing. He was trying to talk her down, like, look, terrible things happened, great injustice was visited on you, obviously we're very sad for what happened to your brother, but this is not the way, this has to stop. Clearly, she does not want to stop. And like I said, it just seems like Joel, Ellie, Henry, and Sam use the bloater as part of their distraction. Like you see the explosion go off, a bunch of hunters in the background with their trucks. Kathleen's whole tirade on forgiveness is also meant to be a dark mirror for Joel. Joel is a character in the game who's looking for forgiveness and redemption. He's also learning to forgive what happened to his daughter and actually move past it. He still hasn't fully come to terms with what happened to her or what happened to Tess recently. That's going to take a long time. He's working on it. Ellie is now helping him work through that pain. And the idea is that his relationship with Ellie helps heal him emotionally over time. It just takes a long time for that to happen. As opposed to Kathleen here, Melanie Lynskey's character, who doesn't care about forgiveness or redemption or even dealing with any of her trauma in a healthy way. In early theory, usually the way things go in shows like this, with arcs like that, where characters have like a really dark arc, it winds up leading to their gruesome death, maybe at the hands of this bloater. Like Kathleen doesn't care about laying down arms or forgiving for anything that happened, and that's probably going to wind up getting her killed. The big change that they made with the bloater is that the first major encounter that they had with the bloater in the game was actually at Bill's inside a school. The bloaters are a future evolution beyond clickers, and what happens is the fungus continues to evolve their bodies. They just get tougher hides, they get much bigger, and they gain the ability to throw spore bombs. Obviously, that's a little bit different on the show because they're not doing spores. But the idea is that this is meant to be like a super clicker, so as bad as the clickers were in episode 2, this is going to be way worse and way harder to kill. If you spotted any of their Easter eggs or references in the trailer that I didn't talk about in the video, just write them below in the comments. My full episode 5 video will post Friday after it airs. Like I said, HBO is releasing it early because of the Super Bowl. There will be a ton of Super Bowl trailers this week and this weekend. I'll try to do videos for everything, so be sure to enable alerts for my channel so you don't miss those. It'll be fun. It's going to be a good week. And as a treat, you get an episode of The Last of Us extra early. Congratulations, Cobra Bear, you're the giveaway winner from my last video. Please email me on the About page of my channel so I can get your contact details. Everyone click here for my full Last of Us Episode 4 video, and click here for all my Last of Us episode videos. Thank you so much for watching, everyone stay safe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.